Today, we're going to be talking about authentic intimacy. And for me, this practice is a really key piece of authentic intimacy because to be able to be intimate with anybody else, we first have to be really clear in our intimacy with ourselves. And this is one way that we can start to gather ourselves in to really truly feel ourselves and be with ourselves where we are and start to tune into what's true for us, which is crucial to be able to be authentically intimate, right? So if we were to talk a little bit about what are those words mean when we put them together, authentic and intimate, authentic intimacy? Well, first and foremost, we have to be authentic with ourselves. We have to be clear with ourselves. We have to be in our own truth. And sure, as we grow and become and learn more and more about ourselves, what might be true for us can change over time, and we can find that what's authentically real in any given era of our lives might be different than the past era of our lives. And that's beautiful. That's growth. That's change. That's evolving. That's becoming. That's being woman, right? If we think of woman as being like the ocean with all of these tides and currents and ebbs and flows, we do change over time, just like the ocean changes from hour to hour and day to day and all of those things. So, staying really present and in present time with ourselves is important in terms of being authentic. And then having that intimacy with another person, if we, one of the ways I love to look at the word intimacy is into me see, which means I'm going to allow a person to see into me, to see what's really real about my internal landscape and my internal world. And I'm hoping that my lover is going to do the same with me, that I'm going to draw to myself someone who's also capable of being authentic in himself um, and able to express that, so that we can create this into me see dynamic where we get to really see the internal workings of another person and offer our love and our support to that and receive it in exchange. I do want to presence the fact that I am going to be speaking in heterosexual terms today because that's my orientation, but I respect other orientations, and these kinds of dynamics can fit with other kinds of relationships as well. It applies to monogamy or polyamory, and I just want to presence that up front to say that this is beyond any of those kinds of labels or orientations, and more about what's true inside of ourselves in any one of those orientations or situations. So I have 3 points that I want to speak to you about today around authentic intimacy. And they are, first and foremost, how to be intimate with yourself. Got to have that right. Secondly, knowing your truth. And then thirdly, how to express that to a lover. So, in terms of how to be intimate with yourself, um, you have to have the ability to collect and feel yourself, just like we were just doing with this practice of gathering the tendrils. And it's very easy for us as women, when we share ourselves with a lover, to start to meld into that. And there's a real beauty in that ability. And you'll see this, right, when people become couples or they become lovers and they start saying the same kinds of things the other person does, or they start to even almost look alike in a certain kind of way. Like you can see that there's a third thing that develops around them that they're creating and tending to as they continue to love each other and open themselves towards each other. And this third thing has sort of a life of its own. And to be able to do that, we have to really show up to it and give to it. And for many women, it becomes very easy to lose ourselves in that third thing. And once we've lost ourselves in the third thing, then we no longer truly have ourselves and sit back in ourselves and rest into ourselves. And so having practices like these, like the gathering the tendrils practice, where you know how to collect yourself and come all the way back to yourself and feel yourself, even while you're invested in this third thing, that is the relationship between you and your lover, is crucial. It helps you stay clear. It helps you stay authentic, and it helps you with your ability to open and see into the other person and allow them to see you. So you have to be able to collect and feel yourself. And part of what happens in doing that is that we can learn to fine tune our ability to be sensitively attuned to our own yes and no. And this is related to Jasmine's webinar last time, where you were, tuning into your body and all of the nuance and sensitivity of how our body speaks to us, and then taking that even deeper into your yoni and collecting, yoking your yoni to your heart. All of those things, those practices and those realizations and acknowledgments help us to get really clear on where's my yes and where's my no. And yeses and nos are really, really important in terms of intimacy, because when we have a tendency or a habit of either ignoring or not hearing any form of yes or no that's coming from our authentic state of being, and we override it to give a lover something that they want, show up in a way we think the lover needs from us, or um, even override it in the way of trying to bend ourselves to be what we think the other person needs or wants. We in doing that, in overriding ourselves, um, we break the ability to be authentic and to be intimate. Our yeses and our nos are a big part of who we are, and they're that gut feeling or that sensation in ourselves that either opens for a yes or contracts for a no. So anything that sort of makes this feeling of contraction, that's a no. And anything that feels like excitement or eagerness or curiosity or open-heartedness, that's the yes. And it's crucial for us to continue to listen to ourselves throughout any journey of lovership or any journey of relationship that's about opening ourselves authentically, to stay really close to that sensation of contraction or open, contracting, expanding, so that we are really clear in what we have a yes on and what we have a no on. There's a game that I've played with my lovers that I think is a really super fun game to play, as you're getting to know each other, particularly sexually, that I call the yeses and nos game. Do you want to explore yeses and nos? And what that means is that you can get into um, kissing, touching, exploring, and have the agreement as you go into it of like, each time I feel a no, like I don't really like being touched there, I'm gonna tell you that's a no. And each time I feel a yes, like, oh yes, please touch me more there, I'm gonna tell you that's a yes. So that's a really sweet, fun game to play with a lover, where you get to explore that dynamic together of like, well, what are my yeses and my nos, and what are yours? And then to learn to continue to stay present to that yes and no all along the way. And it's okay if you find that you tend to override still, or you find yourself having ignored a no, and then sort of dealing with the repercussions of that, you just start again, right? You just go, oh, I slipped up, I didn't listen to that no when it came, now I don't feel so good, no problem, I'm going to get back to really listening to my yes and no. Yeah. um That tendency to override our feelings is deeply ingrained in many, many women, and it starts in our childhood. It starts um, with our girl selves being told by an adult caregiver, don't feel that way. Um, it's not okay to cry. You're being overly emotional. You're being overly sensitive. You're being too much. You're being too little. You're being not enough, you're being overly much, right? All of those kinds of messages shut down our relationship to our own authentic yes and no. And so these practices are meant to open that back up, open up something that's actually natural to our beings. It's something that we do naturally as children. If you watch little children, you'll see them doing it all of the time. And it shows up in a different expression, right? Crying about something they don't like, going eagerly for something they do like, is that kind of thing. And that's natural. It's a natural part of each one of us. And by turning ourselves towards it, we can reopen that ability in ourselves and get really true to ourselves in that way. It's a form of listening to our own impulses and allowing ourselves to go with them, rather than telling ourselves, oh, I shouldn't feel that way, or oh, he won't like it if I want to do that, or those kinds of things that we tend to do. So this is about overcoming those tendencies that a lot of us, had instilled in us as children, and bringing ourselves into an adult empowered place of, yes, but this is what I like and this is what I don't like.